With Bob Iger now as the new CEO, he's really trying to clean things up, not just over at Disney as a company, but also at Lucasfilm and exactly who operates it, how it runs, and exactly where things are going to go for the Star Wars franchise as a whole, and where it's really going to lead the fandom, right? They're really trying to obtain a lot of those lost fans that walked away after the sequel trilogy's end. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way, guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you also very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing that a lot of fans have been very fed up with is exactly what Kathleen Kennedy has been doing with, of course, the past couple of projects. We already know that she really created a lot of criticism for the Boba Fett show, for the Kenobi series, and let alone the entirety of the sequel trilogy at hand. But thankfully things have now changed. We already talked about this, how ever since the very beginning of 2020, Kathleen Kennedy has had little to no creative power. She only has creative control over the Acolyte and now portions of Skeleton Crew, because now we have Favreau coming in to fix many aspects of that show, along with John Watts. They're both working together now. So with that being said, what really is striking is exactly what's been going on with Favreau and Filoni, and what kind of changes they have been making themselves personally over at Lucasfilm to really reshape the company and to clean up house over at that company, alright? So with that being said and all, what's even all the more exciting about all of this is exactly what they have planned for the next 10 plus years. That's right, they're working on 10 years worth of Star Wars shows simultaneously in different phases, and exactly how that's going to all be introduced in the roadmap throughout Star Wars Celebration of 23 and 24. Now on top of this, alright, with of course Favreau and Filoni now gaining more privileges over at Lucasfilm after they received a number of promotions thanks to previous Disney CEO Bob Chapek, Bob Iger is keeping that intact, and recently John and Dave made a specific call for the Star Wars franchise. Now, it's noted that John and Dave recently fired a handful of Lucasfilm employees for one of their upcoming projects that kept on insisting that they drop the cameos and get rid of the Legends characters. These employees are said to have been within the creative circle that are now being replaced, that have been fired and let go from the Mandalorian 4 project, are said to have been ones in the creative field that were actually very loyal to Kathleen Kennedy. Fav and Filoni are now said to be taking a different team from another project, and they're hiring them for the Mandalorian Season 4. This is said to be the team that was used for the Ahsoka series, and still is to this day, that will now be replacing other Lucasfilm employees for Mando Season 4. So let me just tap into this for a second. Now, what I like about this is that John and Dave are taking action before they even begin filming. They know that these were not the right creatives to be a part of Mando Season 4. They know that they had to get people that were more experienced with the creative vision of George Lucas and their own vision as well. And I think the fact that Ahsoka is said to be like the most inspired show by George and Dave, because Dave is the main creator, let's not forget about that, he's writing the whole thing. John is helping out with that show, but it's really all a Dave Filoni show at the end of the day. It really is a Dave Filoni series. So, there's a lot at hand here, because John and Dave filtering out these old Lucasfilm employees, letting them go, and bringing the Ahsoka team on is amazing. And I think that there's a big reason why they are bringing on the Ahsoka crew. Now, we already know that Ahsoka Tano as a series is going to be a very cameo-heavy show. These Lucasfilm employees that were previously attached to Mando 4, they wanted nothing to do with cameos or big character appearances. They wanted that to be gone. And hey, I mean, at no surprise, it's not all that shocking. It makes a lot of sense that they would be loyal people to Kathleen Kennedy, and ones that felt that she was, doing something very, superior in comparison to John and Dave. So I'm glad that they got rid of them, and they made a right choice here. However, there's more to all of this, and let's tap into this in just a second, is that we already know that John and Dave have stated this before, that the cameos are really used to create momentum. It's to create fun for the fans. They're not just throwing cameos in there just for the sake of it. They want to make sure that these cameos are going to make a lot of sense. And when you look at Luke and Grogu in the Book of Boba Fett, sure, did it feel out of place for a Boba Fett series? Maybe. But it worked. You know, it gave us some development for Luke as a character, and even for Grogu as a character, training through the ways of the Jedi to a degree. So anyways, moving on. On top of this too, alright, as of now, Jon and Dave want to make sure that Season 4 proves to be wildly successful, since this may be the last season. He was putting it out there just about 3 weeks ago that if Season 4 is successful, he is willing to do a Season 5 and/or 6. The employees that were fired are said to have been the same ones that were working on Skeleton Crew and The Acolyte with Leslie Headland, and that a change was needed to create a better atmosphere for the set in which they plan to begin filming this season by February of next year and/or March, to get this out by holiday of 2024. Now, the new season is set to feature big stories of Luke Skywalker once again, and new revelations related to Grogu and more for the fans to all witness. So let me just stop here again for a second. Now, for those of you that don't know, Mando 4 is going to be a very Force-heavy show. What I mean by that is, it's going to have a lot to do with the Force-related characters. Ahsoka, Luke, Grogu, all those beloved characters. Now, Ahsoka is going to be the same exact thing. It's going to be a very Force-heavy show, and at the end of the day, it makes a lot of sense for that too. But let's not forget here that Jon has stated that he would love to stop the Mandalorian series and end it at Season 6. That's his magic number to him. Only if 4 is wildly successful, and he himself said that 4 is going to remain open-ended when it comes to the climax, regardless if they're making 5 and 6 or not. This way, if it doesn't do well, fine, that's great. If it does well, amazing, let's move on, right? So this upcoming season is going to have a lot of revelations related to Grogu, things related to his identity. We already talked about this. We'll talk about more about that later. There's actually a couple more details about that. But Jon and Dave are really on their A game. At the end of the day here, what they are trying to establish is incorporating the fan favorite elements of Star Wars Legends and taking the highlights from those books and throwing them into both Ahsoka and Mando 4. And the thing about Mando 4 is that it's basically going to be the second book of the Thrawn trilogy to a degree, because it is going to have Thrawn as a main character again, and it will also be using Ezra Bridger. So basically, look at it like this. The Ahsoka series is going to be a bridge between Mando Season 3 and Mando Season 4. It's going to be connected to both in various ways. So anyways, guys, we already know that there's a lot of things happening here with Jon and Dave making Lucasfilm a better place, slowly but surely. So let me know what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon we hear them